Lady Butler. Lady Butler.
And we're live.
We're done. Thank you, everyone.
We're live. We're done.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun.
Nathan is quoting my cameo in the film Treasure Island from 1999, where I end the film as the creature announcing.
Right. And we're done.
Nick Offerman and Rachel Singer, man and wife.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
We're about to start one of these fabulous webinars, and you do hear some buzz. That's
Sorry.
From our guest, Annette. That's okay. Annette, hit your mute for the second, honey. We'll bring you in when we bring you in.
All right.
Annette is beaming in from deep below downtown Los Angeles, inside the lizard people's lair. And because of that, her audio isn't great, but she is. And she is one of our special guests who has
lizard people.
It's wonderful. Lizard people.
Actual lizard people. That's where she is.
Yeah. She's one of our special guests who has a very profound relationship with one of our Bunker Hill trees, as indeed Nathan does. Now, you can pop in anytime you need to, Annette. I'm not just talking over you, but your lizard people buzz is a lot.
Okay, so Annette, we'll get to you in a second. So I want to welcome everyone. We have a lot of people tuned in, which makes me happy.
How many people have tuned in?
Oh, like 500 or so. So this is number 3 in our series of free webinars about LA historic preservation and things that you can get involved in. And this is just something we've decided to start doing because there's so much great stuff happening. And if you don't get the story straight and you don't get passionate about these endangered spaces, forget it. You know, like everything's going to fall by the wayside. So we're all about just figuring out what's going on, how we can help, what the policy tools are. And in some cases, looking into the past to understand what we can do in the future.
Oh my God, Vlad. It's so great to see Vlad. I love it. Okay, so...
And Richard's seeing people in the chat pane. Those of you who are watching live, and we will put this online later, will actually
you can type in the chat. Nathan can type in the chat. Okay, let me get started. Okay, so really boring.
If this is a free webinar, is it a frebinar?
Yes, it is.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
Okay,
welcome to the webinar, everybody.
So the best way, the only way to communicate with us as we're giving this webinar is to use the chat client, which is on the right.
Do not call us on the phone. We will not answer.
We won't answer. I won't check emails.
Now I have to.
So that said, there is a 4th member of this webinar who is logged in and is babysitting his granddaughter, and that is Dr. Don R. Hodel. Hey, Don. And so he's here to field complicated questions. We have a bunch of videos of him, and he's the environmental horticulturist. And Annette adores Don. I think I've really transformed Annette's life by introducing her to Don. So we're gonna.
Well, I hear the buzz of the lizard people. Annette, what's up?
Oh, she's just all right. So Annette, why don't you turn your microphone on because I want to properly introduce you.
I'm turned on.
Great, perfect. All right. So beautiful. Annette, you are here on this. So this webinar is about 2 different sets of trees that are about a block apart. The first one is a Moreton Bay fig. The second one
that has been saved.
That has been saved. And the second is a queen date palm, which we'll get to a photo of in a second. Thought I had it right after your photo. Sorry. So Annette, you're gonna help us set up the poem you've written for Sunshine at 2nd and Hill, correct?
Yes. So yes.
Perfect.
Indeed.
Perfect. Annette, tell us anything else about yourself besides your adoration for the Queen Palm Sunshine at 2nd and Hill. Just give us 30 seconds on everything else about your life and how you've come here.
Well, I'm a native of Los Angeles, and I've always been very close to the architecture and the history of LA. And as it's sort of our past dwindling away, I seem to be chasing it more and more. I call it chasing ghosts. And I am also steeped in the background of music, which I started at my obsession with music in junior high, when it was called junior high.
It's always junior high.
It's always junior high. Thank you. And I've always loved Los Angeles history. You know, I'm an English major at Cal State Northridge, and I've always been able to kind of swing doing music and going to school. Hence the dark circles under my eyes, not very much sleep, and also LA history. So here I am.
I love it.
You're in the right place.
I love it. I love it.
Happy to be here.
Let me get you to mute yourself. I want to quickly introduce our unseen member, Dr. Don Hodel, and Nathan. Hold on, we'll get to you.
Oh, we always get to
we
you.
always get to Nathan. We have to promote his book. Okay, so Dr. Don Hodel. All right, let's call him Don.
Let's call him Don. We're all friends here.
Don is really important. He's an environmental horticulturalist, and he has been working with Kim and I on a number of tree preservation campaigns.
It's funny how we work on projects and they come in waves, and somehow trees are really at the forefront.
I talked to Don like 4 times a day. By the way, Don, there was this really great fight at Chevron Oil about the eagle tree, and it got resolved by my just waiting for everyone to yell at each other via email internally.
No one yelling at us. It was great. And by the way, when we see you next, we finally have a copy of your book.
Yeah, which
your
is on the screen.
Book published by the Arboretum.
I
and I'm going to bring a pen and ask you to sign that for us.
So Don's written this great book, Exceptional Trees of Los Angeles, in 1988, and it's a great book. He helps us save old trees. He knows what he's talking about. We'll get into all of his credentials in a minute. So let's keep moving. Nathan. All right, Nathan, let me get your proper slideshow because
it's a special one.
Well,
Nathan
gets his own slideshow because
he's Nathan.
He's Nathan.
Nathan, we go back a minute or two, all of us.
A little bit. And we met in Santa Cruz, and then we went to visit the Black Dahlia, and I cut off your hand.
That did happen. We went to. Now, these days, you actually can't go to the cemetery, Mountain View, where Elizabeth Short is buried, without very, very specialized opportunities and limited hours. Apparently, during the pandemic, all of the people who walk dogs for a living went a little crazy ape bonkers at the cemetery with like 50 dogs on multiple leads, menacing people. And the folks who actually own the cemetery, who are the people who have, loved ones buried there, said, we're not a public park.
So Kim,
become extremely
because we were talking about punk rock. Tell us how Nathan almost slammed a finger of yours in his purse and almost took your finger off at a punk rock show.
No, you got it wrong. We were at the cemetery and
anyway, so the other day Kim says, let's do a blog about Bunker Hill. And I say, okay, so we did it. Well, we did the 47.
That was 2008. And we did a whole year of blogging Lost Bunker Hill.
Right.
Pull that down a little bit. I can't see the title.
But it's on the screen.
Right. So Nathan has done the most scholarly and unique book about Old Bunker Hill because you've been collecting photos. These are not the photos you see everywhere online. Well, now you do because people bought your book and scanned your photos.
Right. So Nathan, you have 2 books. You have your Bunker Hill Los Angeles book, which is Angel City Press, and then have your own zine, Bunker Noir. So tell us a little bit about Bunker Noir.
The editors said, well, half of this book is just crime and murder and horror and blood and death and stuff. And it's a depressing slog. And I said, depressing? It's like the best stuff in the world. So they said, get that stuff out of our book. And I said, fine, I'll put it in this. Bunker Noir. Ooh, murder, death, horror, the depressing slog, which was Kim's idea. She said, put it in a zine. So it's kind of a very fancy zine. But
So Nathan,
dude, it's perfect bound. It's not a zine.
You're very fortunate because you get to spend a couple times. You get to have a cup of coffee with Aaron Mavane, the public relations director for Grand Central Market, because your book is on sale there, and you have to drop it off 3 or 4 times a year to restock.
They're probably out of them now. So let's all go to.
Well, on Saturday we were there, and they still had copies,
but they'd sold 3.
But they were doing quite well.
Nathan, that's your website, bunkerhilllosangeles.com.
That is correct. Right. Everyone should go to the website, read what I have written so far, and join my Substack.
We'll get to that.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. There's your mailing list.
That's how you let people know that you've come up with something new. Usually something really bitchy you've written about Cooper's Donuts being full of lies.
Because I'm a
I support it.
Sorry.
Well, people make stuff up.
Nathan, you have another blog, RIP Los Angeles, where you blog buildings that are being demolished, which is a Sisyphean task. And
this is also where we host the Cranky Preservationist videos.
Right. It's a great blog. And
oh boy, what's that?
I don't know what that is.
That's leaving.
We're gonna leave. That was our last webinar. All right, so
without stopping, so we realized that there was a webinar in these 2 trees.
Yes.
Now when I say that the Morton Bay fig has been saved, the reason that it's on our radar is that it's actually kind of sick. This is a tree that was saved. You'll hear all about it, but it's also a tree that when we found it, we're like, is that the same tree? It does not look well. And so we're in the process of helping the folks who are responsible for it understand what they've got and what to do to keep it alive. This is a tree probably planted around 1890, so we all have to look after it here in Los Angeles.
Right, and so again, we have two trees, basically 2 blocks apart. This Morton Bay fig at Angeles Plaza,
which I've decided is named Morty.
And then
Morty.
the queen palm, which Annette has written a poem about. So
she calls Sunshine.
We'll get to that. So first things first. So Nathan, you are on. So Nathan, let's get you and I are going to come into focus and orient everyone about this very old tree, which was moved off of Bunker Hill to the foot of. Let's just jump in. So go ahead.
Nathan, go ahead.
Let me start by saying,
yes,
I grew up in Santa Barbara and born and raised. And Santa Barbara, for those of you who don't know, has I think the tallest Morton Bay fig tree is in Balboa Park, but the Morton Bay fig tree with the widest canopy in maybe the world, but I know in North America, as far as the Ficus macrophylla go, as they're known, is in Santa Barbara. And it is specifically where punk rock kids would go in the early 80s, because that's where all the Vietnam vets lived, all the homeless vets hung out underneath, but they still had drugs. And so all the punk rock kids would go and buy drugs off the Vietnam vets and stuff. So the Morton
Where is this tree located in Santa Barbara for those of us who have only spent a short time there?
You'll actually, a lot of people who drive up the 101 to go through, you'll actually see it as you drive north, headed to Ohio. I don't even know. No, that's headed to Goleta. And it's right by the freeway. It was actually slated for demolition in 1950. And then there was such an uproar. And the tree was planted, I think, by the Stearns family, Stearns Wharf, about 1875. So it was a big tree in 1950. And so they actually routed the freeway around. It's the freeway, between Cabrillo, there's the freeway, there's the tree right about not at the bottom of State, but at the bottom of Chapala? I don't know.
Over by the Sambos?
We have to keep moving.
Yeah,
over by the Sambos. Back to Los Angeles.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, that's why I love Morton Bay fig trees. What we're looking at right now is a Morton Bay fig. Okay, so there was this guy Chapman. It's 1894. Yep. He plants a Morton Bay fig tree in his backyard because people loved planting them in the 1890s because they're Morton Bay fig trees. There had been, of course, remember, what was it? Was it Elijah Workman who had planted the fig trees in the 70s around the plaza? So Chapman planted
the four of them. Everybody who was anybody had a Morton Bay fig.
Everybody who was anybody. I can't believe I don't have one. Oh my God, now I have to have one.
Nathan, where Chapman's house? Chapman's house.
Chapman's house. So the AAA knew enough that when they tore down Chapman's house and they were building their, the big AAA headquarters, where is this, on Adams and Figueroa?
Adams and Figueroa.
They said, well, we actually have to build around the goddamn tree because it's just too amazing, pardon my French. They knew, everybody knows these trees are amazing.
Okay, great. And let me start this one, and you can bring up the rear if you want. So just about a 15-minute walk from the Morton Bay fig we just saw at Figueroa and Adams. This is Magnolia and West Adams, about a mile west.
Yeah.
This tree was planted around the time that the first houses were developed as a neighborhood in this West Adams district.
I'm going to interrupt. I live literally a block away from here, from this tree.
Oh my God!
You know this tree?
Magnolia.
Does this tree have a name?
Yeah.
Now I know it, but no, I did not know this until right now. And
So,
I live
changing
off of
lives.
Magnolia and 27th, basically. But
Okay,
anyways,
well, Annette,
cool.
now you're responsible for keeping an eye on this tree.
Exactly. So in the 1870s, the Miller Marriott House was developed and was designed by Joseph Cather Newsom. This is the first development in West Adams, and what the developer planted this Morton Bay fig tree nearby the site. And so I'm just showing, this is just to show a little bit north. Morton Bay figs are really important to late 19th century Los Angeles. So now, and we've given Annette a new project, so I'm very happy. So now we can move north to an even older neighborhood than the University Park. We can move to Bunker Hill. So Nathan, what are we looking at right here in the heart of downtown Los Angeles? Give us a century. Is this 1900?
But Richard, you're originally a West Side guy. Do you remember the tree that's on National near like
yes.
the
Oh God. Yes. Yes.
Interchange.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
that I think is actually a historic cultural monument, and that's a big ass Moreton Bay fig tree. Anyway, but we're not doing a webinar, a webinar just on the Moreton Bay fig trees of Los Angeles, but on this one in particular. So what we are doing right now is looking west across Hill. So we're like over here on Broadway, we're looking west across Hill Street, and Bunker Hill is rising up into the distance. You've got Second over there, you've got Third over there.
Wait, so there's like the Broad and Mocha and Wells Fargo
we'll get to
plot.
that.
Oh, okay, got
exactly. So our tree, go back one slide. So our tree in question, so you figure this is about 1890, you figure our tree's about, yay high, and it would be just on, there was a street called...
You can draw, Nathan.
That's right. How do I do that?
You can draw.
Yeah, go draw a cute little tree.
Don't draw penis. Just draw.
Don't say it, he'll do it.
You know I'm going to draw a penis.
As long as it has leaves.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's that?
That
Clay
black
Street?
one? That's Clay Street, and it's running between Hill
I think
Street.
next time you could pick a color to draw in and it would be better. What is that? Oh, Nathan.
So the O is Olive, the H is Hill, Clay Street runs between them, and our tree, I forgot about this drawing thing, it's amazing. So this is 3rd Street, and this is 4th Street over here, and our tree is right there, because running up to Olive is 340 Olive. Runs down the
Wait, there he's typing?
And this is where the Moselles built their house. And I haven't done all the work in the world on this. I need to do a little more work. But I believe that it was George Moselle, hoity-toity accountant. He worked on, what's his name? Ferris, who became lieutenant governor, blah, blah, blah. Moselle, I think, planted the tree there. The house is removed in 1923. It becomes an empty lot, but the tree remains.
Will you please show us on this map where the original location of the Moreton Bay fig we're about to talk about for the next 10
And
minutes
use the color green because it's a tree.
Oh, darn it. Got to use the color green.
No, that's okay.
Oh,
that's cool.
fine.
That's
You
good.
already went ahead.
Good. All right. Perfect.
Right there.
Perfect.
There's our tree.
Perfect. All right. So this topography of
Thank you.
Bunker Hill doesn't exist anymore. And why doesn't the street layout for this old hilltop neighborhood exist anymore, Nathan?
Because the city knows what's good for you. And they said, we can't have people living in blight, in slums, especially so close to the Civic Center. So what we got to do is, well, I got to do this in red. We got to do this.
Red line. Oh, are you redlining? You're redlining.
Yeah, well, and then redlining. So
Nice.
So
they tore it all down.
So
and in
jump to 1965. This map on the screen is 1965.
Exactly. Perfect. And if I am looking at this
Is
correctly.
this around the time that they put the gas into the tunnels and they killed all the lizard people too?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. That was Yordi.
Yordi.
So here's our tree, and all of this gets torn down. And the reason you lose, like, this is Clay Street, Bunker Hill Avenue, Cinnabar. You lose all these streets because the Community Redevelopment Agency decided to put this all into big super blocks. And then they took them shopping. They said, super blocks for sale. And what happened was over here, the Union Bank built their big building, and then the Bunker Hill Towers went in. That was basically the 60s. So therefore, all of these little streets, that was that.
I love it.
I think we understand.
We understand. And so now,
What are we looking at now,
now we're going to just do a block. And so
Right.
that is where it used to be.
Yep.
And
Well,
I know, come on, I'm off
Thank
by
you.
half a block. Give me
you're up
a
half a
break.
block. It's okay.
Okay. And that's where it moved. And Annette's date palm, Annette's
palm.
beautiful, sorry, queen palm, Annette's beautiful queen palm is up there in the yellow block. And we'll get to all of that. So
So
Nathan,
we're really talking about a very small footprint, which is why
Very
we've been
small.
able to visit these trees in the same trip and just get really geeky about trees.
So Nathan, this is a photo taken of the intersection of 4th and Olive looking due east on Saturday.
And you can see there's still a little bit of a hill. We're looking sort of down the hill. This
Yeah.
is the remainder
from-
of the rise.
From there, it runs down to Hill Street. And
And the tree would be like sort of
a
behind
block
that
down.
tree. Yeah.
exactly
Right?
like 100 feet that way. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. The tree was moved. We'll get into that. It was moved to Angela's Plaza.
Which is the modular senior housing development across the street from
Yeah,
Grand
yeah,
Central
yeah.
Market.
It was,
and this is
Sikorsky, and there's the tree now. And what's weird is like, okay, so go to bunkerhilllosangeles.com and read my post about the retaining walls that exist along between 3rd and 4th along Hill Street, because they're old Bunker Hill. And Annette saw this, and we got to talk about it. And I was like, I found out about this tree in these old pictures of like Clay Street, right behind Kim's head. You can see it like there in the distance. And so I just did a Google Earth to see if the tree was planted in the Angeles Plaza. And the thing was so, as you can see, go back one, Richard. As you can see, if you're familiar with the
spindly
tree, these things are big, thick. You cannot see light through these things. So looking at it just from like Google Earth, I was like, that's not a Moreton Bay fig tree. It looks like a Chinese elm. It's just too wrangly. And that gave me a lot of cause for concern, because then I was like, God, they tore down the tree, or they just never moved it, or what they did. Turns out, actually is the moved Moreton Bay fig tree. I just didn't realize it because the thing is looking a little sickly, but we're working.
But remember the story though, because I'm interjecting here.
Yes, of course. This is what you do.
When we went to go visit Sunshine, the Queen Palm on 2nd and Hill, or 2nd and Olive.
Yeah.
I remember we were walking back, and I was walking with Kim. You guys were walking ahead, and we said, "Oh, look at that little bunny," which is kind of
there was a little bunny just
ironic
hopping
to
in the
see
grass.
a bunny in downtown L.A. on its way to the Grand Central Market, maybe, and all of a sudden Kim goes, "Gosh, I wonder if that is the tree," you know.
Yeah.
And the
bunny actually led us. It was like out of Lewis Carroll. It was fantastic.
It was a sign, a good luck sign.
I love it. Nathan, tell us what we're looking at right now.
So at the corner of 4th and Hill, we're looking sort of northwest. And so this is after everything had gotten torn down, and there's the lonely Moreton Bay fig tree, which had once been on Clay. Right, yes, right there. So what you're looking at.
I'm so impressed by these photos, Nathan. This is just wonderful.
So Nathan, we have a couple more of these photos. Let me set this up. So basically what you've done, Nathan, is in your brain, which has cataloged about 500,000 images of Bunker Hill from 1915 to the present day, you've been able to pinpoint along Clay Street in your just by using your memory, glimpses of this Moreton Bay fig, which is now at Angeles Plaza at the bottom of the hill.
I think 500,000 is conservative estimate, but yes. So yeah, go back one.
Whoa, wait! I have to ask a question here. So that blue arrow, is that Morty?
Yeah,
that's Morty. Oh my gosh!
So we're looking south on Clay Street.
Wow.
That's the Covey Apartments. That was at 333 South Clay. Well, there actually was North Clay, so there's 333 Clay, and there's the tree next to it. Now go ahead one. And if you notice there's between those two guys above them, there's this fire escape. And it'll say like rooms, apartments on the side of the fire escape. Now go ahead one. So that's the same building. That's that fire escape. So further down the street, across the street, that's like 332, 330, 328 Clay. And there's the tree there. And then looking north on Clay Street from the other way, from down near 4th Street, that's the Antlers Hotel next to this.
Hang on. What do you think he's carrying, Nathan? I know you can tell this stuff.
I can actually tell. Let me see. Yeah,
he's coming back from Grants. Is he coming back from the Japanese merchant?
He's got some lamb meat, 2 potatoes, and a bottle of 4 Roses.
So
yes, it's gonna be a good night.
Did he go to Grand Central, or did he just go to the grocery store next to Angel's Flight at the station house?
He felt Grand Central would be putting on airs. It was a little bougie for him, so he just went to the little grocery by Angel's Flight.
Besides, he's got credit there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this is the article that really drove it home that there was this
go back one
happening, right?
Go back one. Now, see how the canopy of the tree is sticking out like that on the very far right of the screen?
Yep.
Now go ahead. See it? Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
See that?
Yeah.
Right there. Same canopy on the right of the screen. Same thing.
Yeah.
Just without Clay Street, without the little guy, without the lamb meat. And that is the venerable Bunker Hill tree to be saved.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And so what you're seeing so much is as more and more Bunker Hill's gone, people start to get really velveteen rabbit about the whole thing. And they're like, you can't take the tree because they've lost everything else.
You can't take the tree. Nathan, you have about 7 photos over 30, 40 years, can we start to walk through them?
And tell us
Because
what
we
we
haven't
see?
even showed the film clip yet.
Easy. Oh God, I forgot about the. Oh, it's so good. Anyway. How did you find that? That was amazing. And what's weird is I've seen like on the nickel like 5 times, and I never pieced that together before because I haven't seen it in 20 years. But anyway, it's not important.
What are we looking at, Nathan?
We just
Right.
figured it out.
See where the arrow starts in the upper left?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That's the tree. On
Morty.
Clay Street. That's Morty. Hi, Mort. And
Hey, Morty.
the Moreton Bay fig tree on National. That's his cousin. That's Moisha. Anyway, so that you got
I'm so glad I asked.
333 Clay. You've got 345 Clay to its south. That is to say, to the left of it. And then I drew an arrow boop, 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 right across Clay, right down to Hill Street, and that's where our tree ended up. That's now
At Angeles Plaza.
right.
And in 1941, no one could imagine this would happen. But by
Not a
1971,
one.
oy,
So here we are in
Wow.
1971, and as you can see,
Nothing.
everything's
Nothing.
totally gone. Up a little bit above the tree, that's that Dodden Richards parking garage that was built in 1919 at 4th and Olive. That I think got torn down in like 72, so this is right before that goes. So there's our lone tree, all naked and alone and terrified. But at least he was minding his own business. He's like, I get to be a nice tree. Everyone gets to see me now. But
I love it.
but,
I love it.
but
I think the next one is from, if you ever want to see a really great, terrible movie, Return from Witch Mountain. And,
that's the next slide.
Yeah.
We have one
So,
more.
yeah, so there's the tree. So imagine being in it's 1973. You're like walking around bitching about Nixon or whatever people did back then, and
Inflation.
and
Gas
like
prices.
gas lines. And then you look up there and you see that tree and you say, at least there's that tree.
and then you say, oh, I think they're gonna sell that parcel off. That one's gonna be redeveloped too.
Nathan,
legal.
this I believe is the still from Return to Witch Mountain. that
Yes.
you mentioned.
Or return
Yeah.
from, or because they escaped to Witch
Escape.
Mountain and then they return from Witch Mountain. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. This is from a slide of mine.
It's amazing, Nathan.
Yeah, I'm really happy with that.
That's amazing.
Is that shot from an airplane? I mean, how did
Yeah.
they even, or a helicopter?
The city used to go around and shoot a lot of stuff by helicopter because you can actually see some of the slides I have. It's got that little sort of where helicopters land on rungs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there you go. So it's 1983. The arrow starts at a blank piece of field. And that's it. They were preparing that for development. That of course is where they put Cal Plaza 1, 2, and 3, except for 3 because
Yep.
they never built it. And then if you look just down there where the arrow ends, there's our newly planted, happily planted, not yet probably surrounded by all that ground cover that we have to tear out tree.
They did tear it up.
Mondo grass.
did.
Now, but let me just double check this. So the place where the tree was, that's still just a grassy hill, right? They haven't developed that spot. Am I
That is correct. So you can actually we could actually, in the middle of the night, dig up the tree and return it to its original.
Well, I was
1890s
thinking,
spot.
what if we got a seedling, right? And put it, and nobody might notice. And maybe in 20 years when they try to redevelop, we'll say, well, this is an important tree.
It's an important tree. Can't you tell? Everyone knows that.
Right. So here we are
are.
doing a little assessment.
This is the
Jesus,
end of your
Courtney.
Bunker Hill walk, Nathan. About a month ago.
Hey, there's Gordon.
Gordon Pattison, Mr. Bunker Hill. And here,
Progress.
so this is last Saturday. We were going to Grand Central Market to start our latest walking tour. which
I
is
could say that they've
sponsored, by the
removed
way.
some of that ground cover.
So we found these guys and they were very busily pulling up the mondo grass. And I said, thank you. You're helping this historic tree, which is really old. And they said, it's great, but look. And they pointed to the bottom where there's a little hole and they said, it's full of rats. And I said, better the rats than the mondo grass. So let's take it from there.
Yeah. Are they doing the deep watering like they said?
That's gonna happen,
That's
yeah.
next. That's next.
But they had to get the mondo
Okay.
grass.
No,
So what I
fuck
want to
that.
do, is I want everyone to turn off their cameras and microphones for a couple minutes because we're going to show Dr. Don Hodel's video.
And he's going to tell us all about
And
this
he's
tree.
Going to tell us all about this tree. So let me get the video queued up.
That means we have to go away too.
I know that. Moreton Bay Fig. So hold on a second.
I'm excited. I'm going to learn something.
All right. So I'm going to turn us.
Okay, everyone, stay tuned. Here comes Dr. Don.
Hello, I'm Donald Hodel, Emeritus Landscape Horticulture Advisor in Los Angeles for the University of California Cooperative Extension, a position I held for 36 years. I retired a few years ago, and when I was employed, I developed research projects and educational programs for the landscape and tree care industries. Today I'm here in Angeles Plaza, and we're looking at a old historic fig tree in the genus Ficus. The species is Macrophylla, so together it's Ficus macrophylla. The common name is Moreton Bay fig because it was originally discovered on Moreton Bay in southeastern Australia. And the Moreton Bay fig is one of the biggest cultivated exotic trees we grow in Southern California. In fact, there's a list of about 100 big specimens from Santa Barbara to San Diego. Almost all of them are at historic sites, and almost all of them have historic value. We came to see this tree in particular because it's a little bit stressed. It needs some tender, loving care, and so we're helping the contractor and the owner of this site develop a management program that hopefully will get this tree looking healthy again.
So this is what we do.
Okay, now we're on. Okay.
This is what we do. We wander around looking for landmarks in trouble and figuring out how we can help. It's pretty fun. It's not as hard as you would think.
Annette, keep everything off, Annette, because we're about to jump into a. Actually, Annette, do you have anything to say about Tom Waits? Turn your microphone and camera back on if you have anything to say about Tom Waits. Nathan, help me set up on the nickel. Okay, so we're going to show another clip. We're going to show the opening sequence to the 1980 Ralph Waite film On the Nickel, which features the Moreton Bay fig that we've been talking about.
Well, this is a really beautiful film. I mean, Nathan, you said you hadn't seen it in 20 years, but I bet it stuck with you because it's a really evocative, lovely picture.
So I have to tell this story. This is so this is a film that we really, I saw when it came out. I was really moved by it. And when we wrote our Tom Waits tour, it came back into focus because Tom Waits does the soundtrack for it because it's just a totally amazing film. Ralph Waite is the auteur genius who really wrote it, developed it, starred in it, directed it. It's an amazing film. So Ralph Waite came up with this idea because in the late 1970s, he was on the Nickel, East Fifth Street. Let's pretend, because we're thinking about the Doors Morrison Hotel album, let's pretend he was on Wall in East Fifth near the Hard Rock Cafe. And he was talking to some guys who were really having a hard time living on Skid Row.
Because he was down there doing some volunteer work and outreach.
And he's just talking to some guys, and this LAPD cruiser pulls up. Police officer gets out, walks up to Ralph Waite, and says, "I told you last week I didn't want to see you around here." And Ralph Waite says, "Officer, I'm so sorry."
He says, "Oh, you recognize me because I'm an actor." And the cop says, "No, you're a jerk who's giving me lip." And he belts him.
Drops him. Just punches him in the gut. Ralph Waite goes to the ground. Officer drives away. Ralph Waite picks himself up, and Ralph Waite says, "This neighborhood needs some advocacy. We're going to make a movie." So,
Nathan, tell us about your memories of this film.
I'm sorry, I lost you a bit for the last second.
So tell us about your memories of the film.
Well, I mean, the part where they go down to sing Waltzing Matilda, down Fifth Street, or is that Fifth? It's actually on. Yeah, but
it's on Fifth.
Over by the King Eddie.
With me is his love for that one tree, and he doesn't want the people to come and cut down the tree, and then they steal the tree, and which is kind of in a way, it's almost
this whole movie is about trees.
The whole movie's about trees. It's cool. It starts with the tree. There's his affair with the tree. There's the part in another earlier picture, but Harold and Maude, where Maude steals the tree with Harold. So there's a whole thing about tree stealing in 70s movies that I think we need to really bring back.
That's Tom Waits who did the soundtrack for the film.
Let's just watch this little thing. Yeah, so clearly, when they were looking for an iconic image to start the movie, this site, this tree, becomes.
And that's just it. It starts off so Sylvan, like the Elysian fields, and it's so idyllic, and then it, you know, pans over and it's the like gritty, nasty ass, you know, 80s.
Skid Row, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, well, let's
watch it.
Nathan, turn off your camera and microphone. We're gonna do the same, and we're gonna watch.
And this is more. This is our tree in its original location.
Right. I just want to say that one more time.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch the opening sequence of the Ralph Waite 1980 film On the Nickel, and this is the Morton Bay Fig, which is now at Angeles Plaza. Let's get this going.
Sticks and stones break my bones. And always will be true. When your mom was dead and gone, I sing this lullaby for you. What becomes of little boys? Never say the prayers. Sleeping like a baby on the nickel over there. So you better take a bucket. There's a hole in the pail. If you don't get my letter, then you'll know that I'm in jail. What becomes of little boys? Never comb their hair. Lined up all around the block on the nickel over there. I know a place where a royal flush can never be a pair. And even Thomas Jefferson's on the nickel there. So hang around the rosy, sleeping in the rain. You're always late for supper, and you let me down again. Thought I heard Mockingbird, Roosevelt knows where. They're whistling past the graveyard on the nickel over there. What becomes of little boys who run away from home? The world keeps getting bigger when you get out on your own. You never know how rich you are. Do you haven't got a prayer? It's heads you win and tails they lose on the nickel.
It's really something.
Yeah, really. That's.
I mean, I've always loved that scene, but to learn that this tree is still there, it's just the most extraordinary thing, and to be able to be part of giving this tree a second chance.
Okay,
I really would love when things get a little more normal, and I know they will, to try to arrange a screening of this film in the $1 Million, because how great would it be to see the movie across the street from where it's planted, and then everyone go and maybe lay some flowers.
Annette, do you have anything you want to add as we are about to segue into Sunshine? Do you want to just? It's okay if you don't, but I want to just make some asides.
No, I think it's a beautiful movie, and I would hope there will be a trend of free hugging movies. Now, again, they need a big comeback. We need to regreen LA.
Perfect.
Amen.
Perfect. Just Nathan, help me. The final scene, the final shot that we saw of the opening sequence we just watched, that is a pan up into a hotel off of Alvarado at Westlake, which is now demolished.
Mhm.
Donald Moffat sitting in the window. But Nathan, if I'm not mistaken, I believe next week you and Kim and I are getting a tour of the Olympic Hotel, which is just a few blocks from where that demolished Alvarado Hotel SRO is now. So do you feel that our lives have come full circle?
Full circle. Amazing.
Good. Okay. Kim, is there anything else you want to say about this?
And stay on that scene. So this film, although most of it is set deeper into Skid Row, it really gives you a sense of what the hell they did to the historic core with redevelopment, because this is about 10 years after they clear cut everything. And it's a wasteland. I mean, they've managed to turn the heart of the city into the wrong side of the tracks. It's really an extraordinary failure. And although within a few years they would start to get some towers and museums and such up on the hill, it is one of the biggest redevelopment non-success stories in history. And I think we all need to remember they just made a horrible, horrible misstep by displacing 9,000 people, destroying this neighborhood. And all they left behind was Morty and holes in the ground.
Nathan, what have I circled in red? Is that the Hotel Clark? I'm so confused.
Hotel Clark is immediately to its right there, the brown building, which you kind of wouldn't recognize as the Clark because now the Chet Ritz have painted it kind of that putty beige.
That's the Hotel Clark.
So this is the hotel that appeared in the LA Times in that full page ad last Sunday, asking why it has been empty since 1991.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, we gotta keep moving. Another map. Okay. Right, because we're gonna get to Sunshine.
Well, we have to climb a hill a little bit, but we're very close to where Morty's been moved to.
Mm-hmm.
Basically just around the corner and up on the hill.
Yeah. So I've circled in red, I've boxed in red the Sunshine, the Queen Palm. So
Perfect.
Annette, let's get you front and center, my dear, and let's get you to introduce us to our new friend, the Queen Palm.
Okay, here I am. So hi. How did this start? Yeah, it was just me kind of cruising around on the websites, and I found Nathan's blog, I believe, about the dirt patch. The dirt patch. And I remember him sort of describing it like a woman laying on her side, just the formation of it. And I thought that was very poetic and very beautiful. And I realized, wow, this is, that dirt patch is actually the very last piece of raw dirt that undeveloped of Bunker Hill, and that just sort of blew my mind. I work downtown, right, in the middle of it all pretty much. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a little walk. So I went
and here it is. And so what we're looking at is a piece of land on Bunker Hill that, unlike everything else on Bunker Hill, has not been flattened and reshaped by bulldozers. This is natural topography.
Exactly, natural topography. So I went there late morning, and the parking lot was filled, and the parking attendant was there. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to take a little bag and take some of this dirt with me. I'm a weirdo. So I parked my car, and I actually walked rock, and I start to take some, I'm kind of poking around with the stick and just touching the dirt. And the attendant said, excuse me, what are you doing? And I thought, oh, that's it. I'm going to get kicked out. But we started talking. There it is. There's the cowboy boot right by Sunshine. That's funny.
So now you're up at the top of the hill.
It's always there, that cowboy boot. Like even yesterday when I went by there again, it's just on its side.
That's because there's just one. Like if there were two, they'd be gone.
I know. So it's
but one day a one-legged midget is going to show up and say, "Oh,
I'm missing something." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like so anyways, I went there and she told me about it very, very soon it was going to be redeveloped. And so that's when I reached out to you, Kim, and I said, by the way, that dirt patch that I discovered on Nathan's website is going to be redeveloped. And that's when the bells went off. And I started to go there. And all of a sudden, as I was walking and taking it all in, I see this palm tree. And it looks so healthy, waving in the air, like not knowing its days are numbered. Just this queen literally perched atop this hill. It is very majestic, very happy, swaying around, touching all the other bushes around it. It was just so symbolic because right behind it are these tall high risers of exactly. I don't know the exact names of these buildings.
This is a Frank Gehry project, which has just gone up on Grand Avenue. And Frank Gehry is scheduled, although I'm not sure how much work Frank Gehry does anymore. He's rather emeritus architect, but his firm is scheduled to do this new expansion for the Colburns on this site.
On this site. So that will mean that Sunshine will most likely be destroyed, taken away. So
that's why we're focusing on Sunshine.
I'm going to ask you, Annette, to turn off mute your microphone for just a couple minutes because I want Nathan to set up this whole dirt patch area, and then we're going to get you to read your poem. So
take it away.
Nathan, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Nathan.
And thank you for bringing Sunshine to our attention because we did not know.
Okay, so Nathan, let's walk through some slides and then let's show your cranky preservationist video. So we are
I forgot we even made that. Did we make that the same day as we made the Union Hall?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I haven't even seen this since we made it. So yeah. So
you say lots of embarrassing things about me. It's really great.
I do that. Well, as Annette was mentioning, there's a blog post on Bunker Hill site from 2008. It's called North by Northwest, the Dirt Patch of 2nd and Hill. And I was there.
I think this is the iconic photo of the dirt patch.
Yeah, that's a great, that's a Leonard Nadell shot from 1953, 54, when Nadell was working for the Housing Authority and the CRA and taking photos of Bunker Hill and trying to show what a horrible, awful place it was. So if you look to sort of the center, go back one.
Oh.
The center left makes the L. Yes, center left of the thing. So you can sort of see how this is 2nd Street along the edge there, and then Hill Street would be on the bottom.
You can draw.
You can draw. You can draw.
I forgot about drawing. So, so that's the sort of contour that you're going to see when you are standing here and looking.
It looks like a lady lying on her side.
That way. I think in the piece that I wrote, I go on about how the contour resembled like the Odalisque, the famous painting.
Yes,
exactly.
Manet?
And no, look, this is her butt.
Not Manet?
Well, there was the Odalisque and there was the Olympia. Well, anyway, read the thing. Manet's involved. So 2nd and Hill. This is a shot looking up from Hill. So that's 2nd. The one with the pointed tower. Well, there's 2 pointed towers. The one with the Mission Tower is the Mission at 2nd and Olive, and up on the corner is the Dome, which is at 2nd and Grand, which is now the site of the Broad. And then running up the side. So on the very far upper right, that's like the Melrose and the Melrose Annex. So classic old Bunker Hill. And this, yes. So our tree would be right about there. And what I'm very much hoping is if they stick, so this wall is down there still, and the tree's about there. And if they actually just build along, this area, Now, unfortunately, they will need all this area to like throw their crap. Like they're gonna have to put bathrooms and honey wagons and stacks of lumber and stuff like that. But if we could just build, if I'm working on the assumption that they don't need to build right here, that it's just from here to there, then we just need to put like 30 feet of chain link around it with like razor wire and machine gun nests and
that sounds like a Geary project. Yeah, we could do that.
And then people won't mess with our tree, and they can build their dumpster.
Let's get to paths forward
Colburn's
later.
over there, and the Colburn wants their crazy ass. Pardon my French. It's like, what is it? It's an auditorium, if I remember correctly, or it's a
music hall. Even though like there's music halls galore up there, and housing for students.
Oh,
I think we should watch. Let's watch a video.
Yeah,
because you're going to talk about all this, and you're going to be on site and wearing a cute little suit. And the most important thing to remember is that this is all happening because Annette gave us the SOS.
Yep.
And we're here to try to raise some consciousness around sunshine and remember that cool Bunker Hill trees have been moved before. They can be moved before. And a living thing is always worth the trouble.
Annette, do you have anything to say before we're going to show Nathan's video and then we're going to set up your poem that you've written to sunshine? So.
And then we have Dawn's little video as well.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, good. All right, everyone turn off their cameras and microphones and we'll watch Nathan and then we'll get to Dawn and then we'll get to Annette and
all of it.
All of it. So here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you are all too well aware, my name is Nathan Marsak, and I am a cranky preservationist. And we're here at the corner of 2nd and Hill, in downtown Los Angeles, in the outskirts of Bunker Hill, where once upon a time, there was a great pile of earth, a pond. And atop this hill was, say, for example, the Hotel Lock, built in 1894, demolished in 1918, big Victorian goofy pile, and it was there, about 30 feet in the air. And then where I'm standing now, which used to be a hill in 1935, was carved out to become a wonderful parking lot. And was so since 1935. Now that's 87 years. And it's one of the last places you can come on Bunker Hill to see what the old contour of Bunker Hill was like. For example, see that ridge there? See how it goes? There it is. Just like so. If you look closely, you'll see the dome, you'll see the mission. I mean, you have these wonderful mission-style parapets and towers. You had onion domes. And now what? You've got a box and another kind of box. Well, this wonderful parking lot now. You see that corner right there? That's the same corner. Just there. See how it went like that? Went down like that. See that telephone pole? Same telephone pole. And then you see how it cuts across?
Wait, show me the telephone pole.
Echo.
Oh.
Right there?
Oh.
This is Olive Court. It comes in, turns along. It's right there, turns along. Right by where that fabulous tree is. Like that. This corner down here, where it came down, cut, there, that's right there. They parked the cheap cars down there by the falling dirt. You'll notice there's even a flatbed truck to catch the giant chunks that came off of that. For example, the Moorcliff Hotel, 1904, Denison Farwell, used to be right there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is all we have left now of the great old vintage contours of Bunker Hill. Well, we should be thankful for that. However, this will not surprise you, cranky preservationist video that this is, but it's all being destroyed because the Colburn School, flip around, is going to build an annex of some sort, a concert hall, blah, 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 designed by Frank Gehry. And this is all being destroyed. And let's look over here at these beautiful flowers. Look over, look at this. Man, that's a cobblestone. Look at that. So that's why you probably want to come down here as soon as you can and dig out a little bit of the last remnants of Old Bunker Hill. Because soon, the whole area will be nothing more than just wee tins of dirt kept by people with more love and imagination than they have sense. That's who we are. That's how we do it in Los Angeles. And this is one of the great archaeological dig sites of old LA. And I, for one, will be very sorry to see it go.
We did clean up immediately all the paper.
I think we might have given one piece to the person manning.
Yeah, the guys at the guys that run the parking lot were like, "Can I have those?" We're like, "Yeah, of course." They were like, gonna pick them up if I hadn't. I mean, obviously I would pick them up.
We don't litter.
We don't.
Nathan, do you ever think about how great it would have been to make cranky preservationist videos like in Old Bunker Hill?
Someday, I'm going to find the cans of 16mm film that somebody shot walking around Old Bunker Hill, saying like, "Why are they putting in this when they could have like saved it? This stuff from 1952 is terrible. They could put in this stuff from 1996 and save it, etc."
Nathan, I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Those what you're scanning? I'm pointing. You can't see. So like the slide to the right, that kind of wooden fence that's holding back the dirt.
Yeah.
Are those old?
Oh yeah, those are super old.
Wow.
So when you park in this parking lot, go park real close to that, and you're really on top of history.
I mean, they've been. I think that the metal bits are not as old. I think the fence is getting repaired and tinkered with over the years as parts of it fall down.
But like the wood part,
the wood part is super old. And when you look at the old pictures from all the way from the 30s when they first carved this out, certainly the best images we have are from the 1950s, those Hodel images, and these fences look exactly the same.
I love it.
And I should mention, of course, that when we were going to get that dirt, we had to go and check a couple of spots out because the first place we went to smelled really strongly of pee. And I said, I don't think you want like a litter box in your pocket. So we went and found a spot
that could be
less
Audrey's pee.
It could be.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
We're not.
Okay. Because we are approaching an hour into this, and we still happily, with much anticipation, have to set Annette up for her poems recitation. I want to get to Dr. Don Hodel's botanical introduction to Sunshine, the Queen Palm, which I believe will complete the picture, and we can then put Annette front and center and have the recitation of her poem to Sunshine.
And this was a special thing to do because this is a tree that doesn't really have any friends. I mean, it's on the edge of a parking lot. It doesn't seem to be getting watered. As you can see, it's getting tagged with graffiti, and people definitely pee on it. And there's like beer bottles and old shoes. But this is the most neglected tree, and yet it lives. And we wanted to bring Don up there and see what he thought of her and get some feedback on how she was doing it.
And Annette, in anticipation of Don's video, why don't you, at some point, as you set up your recitation of the poem, let us know about your most recent trip in terms of propagation. I'll put that on the table with you when we come back. All right. So Nathan and Annette, turn off your cameras and microphones, and I'm going to do the same.
And here comes Dr. Don.
Don, we're back. We're here with you on this patch of dirt on 2nd Street between Hill and Olive. And what are you leaning against?
So I have my hand on a palm, and this is called a queen palm. The botanical or scientific name is Siagris romanzoffiana. It's native to Brazil and Argentina, and it's one of the most common palms around the L.A. Orange County area, other than the California fan palm and the Mexican fan palm,
right,
and the Canary Island date palm. This is probably in the top 4 in terms of how abundance in the landscape.
Hold on one second. Let me just pan up because I want people to get a sense of just, wow, okay, we've seen the palm. I'm going to come back down. I was about to say, Don, this is a big palm tree, but as the author of the mid-1980s book, Extraordinary Trees of Los Angeles, could you quickly tick off what is extraordinary about this palm and what is not extraordinary about this palm?
So, the book I wrote in 1988 was called Exceptional Trees of Los Angeles, published by the California Arboretum Foundation. And what I did was I developed a list. It's actually a photographic library, and with a list containing information about the oldest, largest, most historic, most beautiful, largest tree of its kind in the Los Angeles County. And so when I look at this queen palm, it really doesn't fit most of the criteria I just mentioned. It's not the oldest and it's not the largest. It is kind of on an historic site, Bunker Hill. And talking to some people who are here with me today, it appears that this tree dates probably from the 1960s sometime. So it's probably 50 to 60 years old. And if it had been cared for regularly, it would be larger than it is. But the fact that it looks so good as it does, and without basically any care, maybe a little bit of water, but probably mostly relying on rainfall, which we don't get much of anymore. This tree is amazing. And on that account, I think it's an unusual tree.
Perfect. And your hand is on some rings. Do you want to talk about how you just sort of back of the envelope calculated age?
This is the trunk, and each one of these rings marks where one leaf. So one leaf produced this much trunk.
Right.
And here's another leaf producing this much trunk. And when growing optimally, this species would produce about 6 leaves a year, 5 to 6 leaves a year. So because it wasn't growing optimally, it's probably producing 3 to 4 leaves a year. And it also, I don't know if you can see it, but if you look higher up the trunk, you'll see that these rings become closer.
Yeah.
And that's because as the tree gets older and starts to flower and fruit and starts to age, it doesn't grow as vigorously, and so the amount of trunk produced by each leaf decreases.
Perfect. Anything you'd like just to wrap up this, I think, extraordinary site for this wonderful tree?
All trees are special to me.
To save ourselves, we have to save the trees.
That's what Don says, and he's
Don
right.
says, and he is right. Annette, front and center, ma'am. We are going to get you set up for your recitation.
Yeah,
Perfect.
This was the greatest thing. When we first decided to meet you down here and go and see the tree, you said, I've written a poem. And I said, I hope you're going to read it for us when we get there. And you did. And I think it's just the loveliest thing.
So Nathan, do you want to introduce Annette's poem before I play the recording of her reciting At the Foot of Sunshine?
Yes. You better, because I'm too shy to.
Ladies and gentlemen, Annette and her poem.
Perfect.
Bravo.
Camera and microphones off, everyone, and we'll get Annette's recitation.
smile. It's like waving goodbye to a friend from across the room, a friend that doesn't know that they're going away forever. Smiling so brightly and happily without a care. My friend is a palm tree sitting on a dirt patch. His name is Sunshine, and he resides on 2nd and Hill above Athens parking lot. I didn't notice him until I looked at a photo of the infamous dirt patch. He was sitting like a crowning glory, and I noticed a sad little yellow flower at his feet. That's when I saw him, Sunshine the palm tree, so happy and alive, waving around, sitting in front of a skyscraper made of steel and glass. The dirt mound that he's sitting in is what's left of Bunker Hill, and is surrounded by skyscrapers and apartments that sit half empty, closing in on him and about to engulf my friend and the ground around him, the dirt patch, the last of Bunker Hill. Downtown now is where people come to die, for $3,000 a month, not including utilities. I'm waving goodbye to my friend from across the parking lot that he sits on top of. Spectacular beauty, not only for what he looks like, but for what he is. A survivor surrounded by his friends, bushes, empty bottles, cans, and dirt. Smiling so brightly with majestic aplomb, I don't dare to tell him. I can't tell him. And for once I found someone so full of themselves that I agree with. And life's cruel joke is that they're going to take him away forever. When we met formally, I caught him winking at me. His hair blowing in the wind, blowing back his pom-poms, bending over and touching his friend sitting next to him for, a decade or so. The bush in the adjoining parking lot. There's graffiti at the base of his trunk, but I tried to tell him it can't take away his beauty as I lay flowers at his feet and hugged him. His friends keep him happy, especially in the sunlight on top of this dirt hill, once known as Bunker Hill. The dirt patch is half the size as what it used to be, originally from the turn of the century. The palm tree, also known as Mexican fan palms, fanning downtown L.A. in the summertime, keeping bodies cool that lay beneath him. This corner of dirt is all he has to dig his roots into and grow. Just ask the dirt. Just ask the dust. Just ask the palm trees what they've seen and what they've heard under the dark night skies, with bursts of motions like a mouse running from approaching footsteps. All they wanted was a break from the sun and heat. Our gentleman of the palm on the southwest corner of the great excavation that turned an even taller hill into Athena parking lot, to all the crowds that inhabit this place and hurry to get somewhere in traffic ever since the 1930s. Acropolis is waiting for you, gallant happy, as a racing, who are probably worth the dirt that you stand on. But dirt is the father of gold. I'll miss you, my happy friend, as bright and sunny as Clementine. John Fontaine sheds a tear somewhere, as his son Dan, who I saw at King Eddie's Saloon not far from here on Los Angeles Street, and Camila Lopez with makeup smeared from crime. Strong, lean legs and beauty everywhere if you look hard enough. But here lies before me beauty in the palm that came from this very dirt on this hill that housed Victorians bigger than the screens or CGI. Please don't let them take you away with the wind in your hair and you stare at the sun and playfully wave at me, smiling, unknowing. Don't let them take you away. 100 feet tall, you're as big and brighter than any of that glass and steel behind you. My Mexican fan palm. I'll say your name and that you lived your life on 2nd and Hill. Birds from the very dirt of Bunker Hill. I'm gonna miss you, my amigo. The wind's still blowing in from the Mojave Desert and Santa Ana's. You're set on blow. You haven't been stained by the carbon monoxide from the 2nd Street tunnel who sits to your right. And you almost won. You almost won. There was a sad yellow flower in the sand growing under your feet next to the trash and weeds and wooden retainer fences. I took a splinter the size of a shoe with me for keepsake, as well as the sand blowing around that I managed to catch. Now I want to take some of you. Give me some of you. Come to me the way I came to you. You pretty, pretty tree. You pretty sad flower. I love you so much.
That's fantastic.
So sweet. And for those of you who maybe are having a little twinkling of memory, of course, it's a sweet reference in that poem on Bunker Hill to the great bard of Bunker Hill, John Fonte, and his Ask the Dust. And a lovely echo there, because these places and these stories continue to resonate for Angelinos.
Annette, that was beautiful. That was just beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I'm really sad that we cannot have our dear late friend Dan Fonte on with us.
Yeah.
Dan passed about 7 years ago now. Really sad. John Fonte is
middle and a great writer himself.
Great writer.
But let's share this wonderful thing that happened, because you asked Dawn if we could save Sunshine, and we talked about ways that Sunshine could potentially be saved, either moved off site or protected with some sort of enclosure.
And we'll get to that in a second.
But he also told you that perhaps Sunshine would produce some seed. And what has happened on your visit?
Well, he was cautiously optimistic. He was a little nervous that the seeds wouldn't drop because it's not properly really taken care of, Sunshine, that they don't drop. They just kind of dry up there in the bunches. So I started to visit Sunshine once, twice a week, and he was right. Nothing was dropping, no seeds. They were just drying up there. So I didn't go for about a week and a half. I had stuff I had to do, and I went this week, and I couldn't believe it. So I walk up the hill, I look at the ground, and I don't know if you can, my camera.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Seeds, like seeds with fruit, meat on them, which is what you need. And wow. They said if they're good, they will sink to the bottom of the glass. They all sank to the bottom. So that means they have potential to germinate, to sprout. So that's kind of a miracle that, she's dropping so many, I went back again and I got about 20 more seeds. So
what is the plan? They're going to soak in the water for how long?
They soak in the water for 4 days. Then I have to peel off the meat. Then they soak in another day. And then I put them in fertilizer in a very warm environment with like a Tupperware with the lid on it. And then it can take up to, I know, it's like totally babying these golden eggs. And and then it could take up to 6 months possibly for them to germinate or sprout. So I'm being cautiously optimistic, but it's a good sign that she was giving us some seeds for some babies potential.
So don't do what I did, which was I was trying to grow these Bari date seeds, and I did get them to germinate. I didn't use the water method. I actually used a wet paper towel in the window. And they sprouted, and so I put them in a pot, and I put them in our garden. And the next morning, I said, Richard, where did you put my pot? Because he's the main gardener here. And he hadn't moved it. It was the raccoons. The raccoons had smelled these delicious little sprouts, and they gobbled them up, and they spilled everything everywhere. So Richard had taken the dirt and put it in a tub. And I dug through the dirt, and I found 3 not so good sprouts.
Right. They left those behind, right?
They left the ones that weren't tasty. So we'll see if they make it.
So crafty. But thank you for the heads up.
Yeah. So definitely baby them in your Tupperware until they're big and strong. Too big for a raccoon.
They're sleeping practically right next to me in bed with me.
Good. Now, you're in communication with Dawn about this germination process, right? I know I started an email.
You did, and I did not send photos yet, so I'm in the process. I will do that. Yeah.
Send us baby photos. We're excited.
Dawn's expertise is palm tree.
Indeed.
So palm. So, he's well suited to advise you.
Indeed.
Okay.
Definitely will.
What else, Richard?
So I want to start the last topic of this webinar on the sunshine front, and that is we're gonna save sunshine.
Oh yeah, sunshine.
Like no,
you love sunshine too much,
no
Annette,
ifs,
to let
ends,
it go.
or buts. I had just to show you depth and scope. I had a informal conversation this morning with Tony down at Big Tree Nursery in San Diego County. Routinely moves
much bigger trees than
much bigger trees than this.
Wow.
I think that I'm going to wait a little bit, and I want to find get a contact for the developer, Frank Gehry, and just talk to them and explain to them either the tree is going to stay on site during construction with regular visits by Dr. Hodel for mitigation of construction work, which Kim and Don and I routinely do around Los Angeles County, either stays in place or a contractor, a nurseryman like Tony or Brightwell, which moved the tree, which moved Morty from 4th and Olive to Angeles Plaza. They can simply move the tree, put it in storage at their nursery for several years, and then when the site is ready, bring it back. But the sunshine is fine. Okay, just
that is everything. Yeah, I know. I'm like a worried mother. So what's going to happen? Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, you know, listen, if sunshine does get moved, sunshine could be laid down for a little while, and you could take a nice sponge and clean some of that paint off her. I think that's sunshine could probably use a bath at this point.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, I've been thinking about doing that now, but I don't want to be taken away in handcuffs as a crazy lady washing the phone. But
maybe we'll go with you and provide a little backup.
I think we're just. I think we're gonna keep it at the level it is. I think that's good. Let's get the seeds germinated. Let's think
about how we're gonna decorate her for Halloween and for Christmas.
Totally, yeah, absolutely. Wheels are spinning, and this is such great news. Yeah.
So let's come back to the beginning. So Annette, happily, there's one of our cats.
Happy Black Cat Appreciation Day, by the way.
Oh yes, every day. So happily, Annette, you identified a Morton Bay fig a block or two from you at Magnolia and West Adams. So what I will do is I will introduce you to the individual that wrote the majority of the North University Park National Register nomination. Provided me a bunch of that information about that Morton Bay fig, and I know the two of you will have a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Nathan, bring us.
Oh wait, before we're brought home, speaking of Morton Bay figs and the plaza, Nathan, you brought up workmen, the younger workmen planting the 4 Morton Bay figs around the circular plaza at the end of Olvera Street. Yeah. Right. Now, at the end of a rainy season several years ago, during a dance of little children for the Chinese New Year, one of the 4 Morton Bay figs fell over. Nobody was hurt. It was sort of a miracle. Goodness. It was in the rain, so the crowd wasn't that big. And there is now a gaping hole. And I've been keeping an eye on the agendas for the commission that runs El Pueblo. And they're sort of slowly taking their time figuring out what to put there, because it clearly is a place that needs a tree. I don't know if it's going to be a Morton Bay fig, so I'll be keeping people posted on what they're doing with that.
We need to come into focus with Council District 14 and El Pueblo management about that topic. Yeah,
but I think in the future, as people move around, especially in historic places, if you see old trees, they interest you, they seem like they might have a story, they seem like they might be in trouble, I'm going to deputize everyone watching to just let us know. Get them on our radar, and if it seems like there's a history there, we'll try to figure it out. If it seems like it needs some love and some care, and maybe the people, the property owners don't know, or it's not necessarily on public property, we can get Don in the loop. We're all here to look after the LA trees, especially the old and exceptional ones.
They're all exceptional, because if we're going to save ourselves, we have to save the trees. So
we're living in tough times, because not only do developers have a particular psychotic fetish for destroying trees, and we're undergoing so much development right now, but I think, what is it, like 8 of the last 10 years have been, actual drought years. The trees are really stressed. People don't really understand how to water them. They'll just like water them all the time instead of giving them like deep watering, like every 10 days, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I think that's a really good thing to say, Kim, is if anyone out there, tell your friends, if you've got a tree in your neighborhood and you like that tree, you can't just admire the tree. You have to actually like find the people and shake them by their little lapels and saying, what are you doing for the tree?
And actually, what you mentioned is really important, because the city's been planting a lot of trees. And what I hear from all of the folks who are involved in tree planting is a lot of times the city will provide the trees, they'll provide the crews, they put all these trees in, and then there isn't really any follow through.
Exactly.
And the people in some communities, people feel like it's an annoyance to have the trees, but you have to find the folks in every neighborhood who think trees are great and give them the tools that they need and the information that they need to. I mean, as you can see, Sunshine's doing great because that's an established tree. But it's when they're young, like your little sprouts that are coming, they need some tender, loving care if they're gonna.
They do, and yet another angle too is we have to remember that with the heats, with global warming, regreening, basically planting does cool things down. With all this concrete, it's going to make temperatures go up even more.
Right.
It's one big hot zone.
Yeah.
And remember that scene in On the Nickel. I mean, you need a place to sleep off your drunk. You need big trees.
I love trees. I'm telling you. And bushes. I like to crawl in the bushes. We need more bushes and trees.
We need more bushes.
And remember too, if you think the city is going to like put in trees and they know what they're doing, that's the same city that in the 1970s covered the entire city with like Ficus benjamina, and now everyone's upset that the sidewalks are all buckled up, so they'll get a crew in there and they'll cut the roots this way of the ficus and pave over it, and it's like, oh.
So what I read every agenda that comes out of City Hall. That's just something I've started doing since the pandemic, and I can't tell you how often the city writes checks to people who have fallen and hurt themselves on sidewalks that have the wrong trees on them.
Okay. I want to.
Those trees are special too.
I want to wrap this up. I want to show.
And then they'll hire arborists who don't understand that you have to wipe your machetes with orange oil and stuff after you've chopped up a diseased tree and let's go spread the disease to the next tree. I mean,
those are not arborists. Those are just guys with machetes.
Arborists. Okay, sorry, Richard, you were saying.
I want to wrap this up.
I want to thank Don for all of his
thank you, Don.
teaching. We've learned such a lot, and I think
both of us learned so much.
We don't know. But I think we're helping at this point because these are all tools.
I feel like I've been years in my meditations. I've been looking for someone like Don, and here he is. And I call him 4 times a day, and every time I call him,
things are going really well with the Olympic oak, the Cornelius Johnson tree down in West Adams. That one,
Hitler oak,
Hitler oak. It's on its way to landmarking, but Don noticed that it was in really poor shape. And so at the last Cultural Heritage Commission hearing just a couple weeks ago, everyone who had seen Don's video told the commissioners, hey, this landmarking's great, but the tree needs immediate care or it's not going to live long enough. And a week later, we got this great email from Ken Bernstein at the Office of Historic Resources in the Planning Department saying, we've had an on-site meeting and people from the Huntington have come down and they're going to have access to this privately owned property that's on the market. And they're going to start looking after the tree even before the property sells, hopefully to a nonprofit that wants to turn it into an educational center. And even before it's landmarked. So it's just about getting the right story out and telling the people who can make a difference what they can do.
And making them aware. Yeah, those people aware of it, It's huge.
And this is a tree that looked great 3 or 4 years ago and just suffered a lot in the last few years.
Richard, do you know the timeline, or Kim or Nathan, when they are planning, going back to Sunshine for half a second, when Coburn is planning to break ground? Is there any sort of timeline on that?
I do not know the answer to that, and that's something where you're going to want to really keep an eye on the planning page. And so this is something we can work out offline. That I'm going to assign you to be in charge of keeping an eye on that planning page.
We'll get you on the page.
And I think you can have someone at the city can actually put you on the notification list.
We're going to get you on the notification. That's the proper answer.
Yeah.
You'll be on the notification list, and you'll have a planner that you can call. And
of course, you
can send him you can send him a seedling, a date seed.
That's nice. Or she. And of course, Nathan, I'm going to ask you this important question.
I only said he because every time we talk about planner, I visualize all the ones that have destroyed buildings.
Nathan, do you think that there's any benefit to doing a little excavation before this project happens? Could there be anything under the parking lot or maybe tucked behind those walls that are used for to hold the dirt up in the parking lot itself?
The answer is yes, absolutely. We just need to go find it. And hey, it's the 100th anniversary of Howard Carter and King Tut's tomb. Same thing. So you think there's anything under this sand? And he's like, I don't know. Let's go dig. And look what he found. And
look what happened to him. Yeah.
Well, no, he turned out okay. Everybody with him actually, got mummy's curse and died. Therefore, everything, I'll be fine. And everyone with me will die of Bunker Hill's curse. But
as long as you water sunshine, we're good. Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're gonna wrap this up.
Anyone have any questions in the chat?
I've been
You've been watching chat.
I've been keeping an eye on the chat. I haven't seen any.
Well, we've answered every question. What's happening next?
I want to pull up some. So I want to thank Nathan.
Thank you, Nathan.
And Annette. I want to pull up.
Thank you, Don.
A quick slideshow of just a couple slides of some upcoming tours that we have.
We are giving walking tours. It's super fun.
Just so Nathan and Annette, why don't you both wave goodbye and turn off your cameras and microphones? I'll talk to both of you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
And just as to close this, we started giving walks. I don't want to say again because we've never really given walks
formally, but this is what we're doing now. We're keeping an eye on the COVID numbers through the wastewater, and they're going down again. So hopefully we'll be back on the bus, but it's super fun. And go back. For those of you wondering, yeah, we wear masks when we're clustered tight together, but when we're walking, if you don't want to wear a mask, equal, whatever you need. It's pretty comfortable, actually. And there we are, upcoming this Saturday. We're doing a walk in downtown LA. Actually, if you take this tour, we can point you to Sunshine and Morty. You can see them both because we start right across the street at Grand Central Market. And this tour is going to be all about the one-time fantasy world of bookstores and writers and great librarians and colorful characters. Booksellers Row was right behind the library, and there's so many terrific stories and oddballs and great writers who set really important scenes in downtown locations. So we're going to stroll around and call up some of those ghosts. And speaking of ghosts, there is a really cool cat featured on this tour, a cat that had a sort of mystical power over the books on Old 6th Street, and we'll be telling you about that as well.
And we're going to have some
special guests.
Very special.
You're in LA Books. You won't want to miss it.
And then we have one other tour
on the calendar.
One other walk. So I called them another walk on the calendar. What is that, Kim?
So our flagship tour on the bus is the Real Black Dahlia. It's sort of what we started out as bloggers talking about the 1947 cases, of which the best short, Disappearance and Murder, is one. And I wanted to come up with a walking tour with a narrower footprint than, the Black Dahlia tour, which takes you all the way out to Lamar Park. And I realized the story I want to tell is several cases, all of which have to do with the intersection of violent death and real estate greed, speculation, and improper use of land. So this is called Human Sacrifice. And this actually came to me when I was thinking about this poor woman, Heidi Plank, who appears by all accounts to have died probably accidentally in one of those Ani group towers downtown at some wild party. And rather than call Hope and Flower, I guess, and rather than call for help, the people she was partying with seemed to have put her down the trash chute, and she's somewhere in a dump site now. This is, obviously an unsolved disappearance. The police have said they believe she's dead, and they believe they know how this happened, but there have just been hints about it. This is a recent case, but it's also an instance in which, activity that should have been going on in some sort of licensed nightclub is happening in private apartments, and there's nobody there worrying about their license. It's just a bunch of people who don't want to get in trouble. So that's the story we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Skid Row slasher cases, which are about
these are from the
70s and the 60s. Actually, this is a serial killer who took a 10-year break and came back and actually picked up where he had left off on the steps of the library, preying on elderly alcoholics like the gentleman that we saw at the beginning of On the Nickel, people who were sleeping rough and couldn't afford a room. We also are going to talk about the Black Dahlia case, another person who was homeless and looking for a safe place to be the night she disappeared, Elizabeth Short. And we're going to talk about Alyssa Lamb, who was a tourist from Vancouver who checked into one of the cheapest hotels in downtown LA, the background there, the Cecil, thinking that it was, a hip hostel because that's what it was marketed as, but actually she was staying at a very small portion of the SRO Cecil Hotel, known as a place where Richard Ramirez had stayed, a pretty heavy joint. Two serial killers stayed there, heavy joint, and in this case, someone who suffered from a psychiatric emergency had no one there to look after her because it wasn't like a real regular hotel. So we're going to walk around to sites featuring in all of these cases and talk about land use, public corruption, and the vulnerability that this creates, the victims who are really the human sacrifices to the Moloch, the greed of real estate, which I think is a story that we really are dealing with very much. People are dying right now because real estate is being misused and people are getting very, very rich. And Los Angeles is getting to be a darn hard place to live in. So that's my story. I'm sticking with it.
Okay, so those are our 2 walks that we have on the books.
Oh, look, there's us.
We did like 50 webinars.
Yeah,
during
so there's a bunch of
lockdown.
them that LA stories.
For
like
example,
the Raymond Chandler.
That's a good one.
That's a good
they're
one.
They're all good. They're all blood and.
We have a newsletter. You can subscribe. There are free and paid editions. If you dig what we do and you want to help support us, you can sign up for the paid edition and get all of the special deluxe things that aren't on the internet editions. And you'll also get the regular one, which will keep you up to date on everything we're doing. And I think we also have, if I'm not mistaken, a tip jar. So if you love this, there's a URL. You can also find it on the website. And just generally, the best thing you can do if you want to support us is if you know people who love old LA and want to help protect historic places and want to get involved and work with one another, make a difference, call in at public hearings, all the things that do make a difference, please spread the word, because I think that we can get a little disparate, especially the pandemic has made it harder to come together. But there are so many people who care, and these tools exist. And the bad people on the other side are using the digital tools, but we can use them too, and we can win a lot, and it's worth it.
Okay, good. So that's
Thanks
it.
for setting this up. This was nice.
This is what I do. Nathan's signed off. Annette, I think you might be back working on your computer on 100 other things.
Thank you so much, you guys, for having
you
me.
for your time. Wonderful recitation.
Thank you for giving us a little bit of your sunshine. We love your country.
Dawn, I think you did a great job.
You always do.
I'll call you tomorrow. Everyone, I'll call all of our presenters tomorrow. I'm going to go make some dinner, and
maybe we'll see you off the bus. Stay tuned. There'll be more of these webinars. In fact, I'll just give you a little hint. For those of you who've stayed this long, we have another one coming up with Dr. Don El Pino. Get excited.
East Los Angeles. Bunya bunya. Okay,
bunya, bunya.
So turning off
cameras
and microphones, and
thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
We're just gonna say we're gonna say goodnight. We're gonna stop the recording and turn this off.
Toodaloo.